Alinea in Chicago has 3 Michelin stars and has been voted the best restaurant in America and as high as number 15 on the best restaurants in the world. Our time at Alinea was easily the most memorable dining experience of my life, and be sure to watch the full video to see all of the surprises they presented us with. Here's what the experience was like, and we'll talk about cost, reservations, and more at the end. We were staying in downtown Chicago, so we took an Uber over to the restaurant.
I can't believe I'm about to eat at a restaurant I saw on Chef's table 7 years ago. Let's go.
It's funny that the restaurant has no signage, and I'm glad I looked it up online beforehand or I wouldn't have known where I was going. We're a little early, so it's not open yet, but at least there's a heater because it's freezing in Chicago.
It's freezing, but we're a bit ambitious right now.
The restaurant opened right before 5 o'clock, which is when our reservation was, and we were shown upstairs to the salon area. The seating was staggered so that the experience unfolded differently for each group. They informed us that no menu would be presented until the end and asked if we wanted a glass of wine or to do pairings. Amy and I just got 1 glass of wine, and almost immediately the first dish was presented. I'm not reviewing the dishes individually, I'm just talking more about the experience as a whole, and this was a very unique way to start as it focused on textures and the dish was presented into the palm of your hand to allow you to feel the textures that you were eating. 2 more welcome bites were presented, the famous black truffle explosion, and a take on a hot potato cold potato. From there, the savory round started, and the entire next dish was based on the plate that it was served on, which was a smoking fish, and it was their take on fish and chips. The fish here was decadent, and the smoked potato chips were a pretty fun addition. The experience here is almost theatrical, and the next dish came out with a story about sardine trays, and then served in an actual 1800s silver and crystal sardine tray. While it looked like a sardine, it was actually eggplant, and there was different edible flowers and things you could add to complete the course. Following that, a fun duck leg serving dish was presented along with incense to start the story of the next course, which is about the hunt.
So without further ado, let's put some bread on the table, although I will say the bread has always been on the table.
Oh, goodness.
The course started with honey butter biscuits that had been sitting inside of the duck the entire time we'd been at the table. They were served with a foie gras mousse and a jam to go with them. To symbolize the hunt, squab was prepared and served, which was a popular dish in Victorian England. While these stage-type experiences could feel like a gimmick, it totally worked here and was so fun to experience. The last savory dish of the night was Wagyu beef with a parsnip chip and then a pomegranate reduction on top. On top, they shaved something called jamid, which is a sheep's milk yogurt from Jordan that adds a salty creaminess to the dish. This ended up being my favorite dish of the night. It was incredible.
I guess melt in your mouth and eat the cheese flavors somewhere.
Before starting the main dessert, we were presented with a course that was served in something like a cigar tube and sounds crazy to describe here. They described it as the distilled flavor of bubblegum gum with tapioca balls, much like you would expect to have at boba, and then you just picked it up and you sucked the whole thing down.
Wow.
If you've watched the chef's table, then you probably know what's coming next. First was the famous dessert that the restaurant's known for, where they covered the table in a silicone mat and then bring out many different items and have a chef come out and actually paint the dessert on in front of you. Ours had flavors all revolving around banana, and it felt almost like a deconstructed banana split. This was a unique dish as it felt like you were watching them create art in front of you, and then that's what you got to eat when it was all done. The final element was a freeze-dried ice cream that was added to the table and then cracked over top of it. This was basically a choose-your-own-adventure dessert where you could try all sorts of different sauces and flavors, and every bite was different than the one before. The last addition was the famous green taffy helium balloon, which is completely edible. I apologize for some of the weird lines on these clips, but hopefully you get the gist of what we're experiencing.
This is very fun.
And then you can just eat the whole balloon. I can't believe I saw this on Chef's table and I finally get to eat it 7 years later.
This is really what a fun meal we had here at Alinea. You can never not say anything and have it be funny anymore.
Oh my gosh, that was too amazing.
Since we were celebrating Amy's birthday, they had one more surprise for us, and it was actually a birthday cake, but not in the traditional way. They distilled a birthday cake and turned it into a liquid and then poured it in your glass. Since it was too sweet on its own, they came over and poured a champagne to even out the flavors. Again, one of the most memorable experiences I've ever had. I actually drank a birthday cake at the end of this meal.
Absolutely incredible experience at Alinea. It felt more like a show than it did a normal dining experience. It was next level, right?
Completely, like mini theatrical presentations and delicious, amazing food.
All right, we're gonna kick this back to the office to talk more about it. All right, we're back from our time at Alinea. Incredible experience at an incredible restaurant. What do you think about when you think of our time there?
Yeah, having coming into this with no idea what to expect except for what we had seen on Chef's Table, it was immediately a theatrical experience. From one dish to another, everything flowed. You had no idea what was coming. We didn't even have a menu to follow, and it just kind of kept you on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Yeah, so the thing that I think about was just how unique it was in the creation of the courses. So one of the dishes that they had a smoking fish on the plate, and they designed the entire course around that smoking fish. Plus they had one that had 18th century sardine trays, and the dish was designed around that. So you just never knew what to expect, and that kind of surprise element added a lot to our dining experience.
Sometimes I feel like fine dining can feel a little serious, and this kind of kept a lightheartedness all the way through with all the storytelling details.
Yeah, I mean, the quality of the food and all of that is of course amazing, but having that element of surprise and of sensory things that you feel or smell just really elevated the experience and made it incredibly memorable. But I don't know if I'll ever have another meal that will be as memorable as the meal that I had there. All right, let's dive into a little bit about how you can book it if it's something that you want to experience. First, you have to decide which level you want to eat at. There's actually 3 levels, and I was confused about that when I first looked into booking it. You have the kitchen table, which is an experience that's almost in the kitchen. There's a glass wall, and you're watching the kitchen basically the whole time. Tons and tons of courses. Then you have the gallery experience, which is a lot more theatrical than even the one that we did, where the tables move. You might do a course in the kitchen. There's different music and other types of elements. And then they have the salon tasting, which is the one that we did. It's the cheapest of the 3. Yeah, cheapest. It's upstairs. Doesn't have as much of the theatrical elements that the gallery has. They said the difference was only a couple of courses between gallery and salon, and the salon is by far the easiest to book. The gallery fills up immediately. I don't feel like I lost out on anything by doing the salon, but if you've done all 3 of them in the comments, let us know how the differences are.
Before we jump into costs, we just want to say that we completely understand how expensive this is, and it's not something we take lightly when we share these types of videos with you.
Yeah, one of the things that became important for Amy and I a couple years ago is that we try to celebrate important moments for ourselves with experiences instead of gifts. For Alinea, after we saw Chef's Table, we knew we wanted to eat there at some point in the future. And with Amy's birthday, we decided we would start saving money and we would celebrate her birthday there on our trip to Chicago. All that being said, this was around $425 a person to book. You cannot cancel it. It gets paid as soon as you make the reservation. We did add on the wine of the night, which was about $28. So our total came to around $960 per person. If you want to get a reservation, then you do that through their online website, which I will leave a link to in the description. Before ending the video and Amy telling you about a special thing they did at the end of our experience, what were your 3 favorite dishes at Alinea?
Yeah, so my 3 favorite was one of our first courses was caviar, and they put this really cold, bumpy glass dish in your hand, and it just shocked you right into the experience. Just allowed your senses to immediately engage and bring you right to that moment. My second favorite was a 1800s Victorian style setting with a smell of incense, and our server set the scene of a Victorian style hunt, and that after the hunt they would set out this huge feast. It was just all the details, and the food was amazing, and I just really enjoyed that whole experience for that. And my third favorite was dessert. It was laid out in front of us like a painting. A chef came out and splattered different syrups and different purees, and at the end smashed this freeze-dried banana ice cream, and it was just delicious and such a fun way to experience dessert.
You're always taking some of mine.
There were so many good ones.
My favorites with the dessert was next level. It's just so fun to have the different types of flavors as you're trying different things that have been laid out in front of you. I loved the balloon, which was famous and iconic for the restaurant, where they figured out how to use sugar to make a helium balloon that you can eat the entire thing of. So breathing the helium in and laughing at each other kind of brought up those childhood memories. And then it was like a green taffy taste to the balloon, which is just very fun dish. And then lastly, that dish that we talked about that was based on the actual plate with the fish smoking. Just everything about it was smoky. It was smoky potato chips. There was a French onion dip. The fish was smoked.
There was like burnt embers smoldering, so you get that element of smoke in there.
Yeah, it was just really fun, really unique dish, and it was very good. One of the highlights for us is that the reason we went was we were celebrating Amy's birthday, so we told them that in advance. And then what did they do for your birthday here?
They came out and set a single candle out in front of me, asked me to make a wish. They caught the wish in a glass, which was cute. And then they presented me with a bottle of a distilled birthday cake. Had me taste it, was incredibly sweet. Just think of birthday cake sugar. And then around the corner comes one of the waiters with a dry, bubbly rosé to top it off, and it was birthday cake in a glass, completely unexpected.
I'm never gonna forget that time because Amy drank a birthday cake, and well, we both drank a birthday cake in a glass. It was the perfect way to end the crazy experience that we had there. Hopefully you enjoyed this type of video. If you wanna see the one that we did on the French Laundry, you can see that up here. If you wanna see more Michelin, 3-star Michelin videos, let us know in the comments, and we would love to go there and experience them for you.
Won't be too difficult at all.
That's it for this one. We will see you on the next video.